All right, hello. That's my own voice playing from my own speakers. Hello and welcome back to Crypto Warehouse. My name's Brogan, and today we're back for another chart stream. Hopefully, you're all doing well. I only see one singular person on YouTube, so obviously I assume people will come as they please. But as of right now, hello to you, Tito. Thank you for joining. Hopefully you've had a good evening, good day so far, whatever time zone you're in. I am also on Square this time, and it is actually working. So for people on Square, hello to you. Let me start a timer before anything gets started, because you know how I am. All right, I try my hardest, I know. I really do. Interesting market movements, pretty good. Anyway, so far, I'm pretty much happy across the board. Solana's moving real nice. Ethereum's I don't know exactly what I said last stream for Ethereum, but I think it was pretty much upwards. Obviously, we'll review what we've talked about and then obviously go forward with it. Bitcoin, pretty happy. Everything's pretty much moved again. We've come down and we're up to come towards about 116. We had some resistances, we had a gap, we had some other things. I'll talk about that obviously, in just a second. And XRP flipping to for resistance, obviously coming down on its higher time frame. Equilibrium, coming below it. I don't think I really talked about Sui last stream though, to be fair, so I don't really think anything has really changed there. It's raining and cold. How's your day? It's been good so far. It's been good. We did upload the In the Trenches first video. We interviewed Brandon from DME, which was a very, very good talk. But yeah, it's pretty good. It's not that rainy here. I wish it was. I am someone who loves the rain. But grass is always greener. People who are in rainy places like the sun, people who are in sunny places like the rain. So, I can imagine, people would think I'm an idiot for liking the rain, but I like the cold. I like clouds. So, I'm a slight bit jealous. Anyway, right now, I have CoinGlass. I have some tweets I want to go through. I have the economic calendar. I want to see what's going on during the week. Obviously, it's a bit early doors right now of the week, Tuesday. I was going to stream yesterday, but obviously I actually finally recorded the interview with the guy. So it's finally been uploaded. So anyway, 113k for Bitcoin. So we obviously have come from our low end. We've come upwards to about 116. I don't know if we exactly hit 116, but we filled the gap majoritively on the daily. Going to the 4 hour, we filled the gap perfectly. We had some order blocks, or we had an order block which we came to find resistance. And again, I've been seeing it more and more. That order blocks, fair value gaps, bang, when they're on top of each other, it's beautiful. Anyway, 6.76% down on the 7-day, again, makes sense. 1.93 in the 24 hours. So again, we had a move upwards. I do want to talk about the guy who had the massive short. I do want to talk about some things about the market, so which obviously could play into fact as to why we're kind of hovering right now. But it kind of made sense with, as a whole. This is what I was saying last stream. It would not make sense to me if we didn't go up. It was like one of the most obvious moves is, okay, we've just come from like a wicking past the all-time high to now 104, whatever it was, K. We're going to have a bit of retracement upwards towards some higher point to find resistance at least, and then maybe trickle off a bit, and then we'll go from there. So that was kind of what I left off with last stream. Pretty much across the board, I would expect movement upwards until we hit somewhere after the move downwards and finding some sort of resistance and whatnot. So yeah, anyway, Ethereum 4,125, 2.54% down 24 hour. Again, Ethereum, I think we had support, which we came up to the weekly order block as resistance, then I think we found support, then we've come up to the propulsion block. We'll look at it. We've found different areas. Ethereum's doing pretty well though, in a bit of a nice move upwards for Ethereum. My name will clear my throat. I cannot speak. 7.89% down on Ethereum. So again, things with Ethereum, we had the weekly resistance. We had that propulsion block. We have we were for a time being below the weekly order block we had as well. So we had other resistances, but it's doing pretty well. We have found support at those different areas. So Ethereum, I will say has been doing pretty well in my opinion. Anyway, XRP $2.50, pretty much down across the board, quite far down. And again, this is the thing about XRP. We have flipped a support to resistance, and we're kind of staying below that. So I'm not very surprised if XRP isn't doing as well as others, because we haven't really been able to get back above where we came below. Sui $2.85, not bad. Again, I didn't really look at Sui the last stream or stream before. It's been a while since I looked at it. I did look at it and I cleared the chart up a bit, but I don't really think I spoke about it. So in terms of what happened, I don't really think I have much to give an update on. CRO 16.36, we came up. We found resistance maybe. I can't remember exactly what happened when I looked at the chart, but again, we will look at it. Obviously about 5% down 24 hours, 16% down. We've pretty much come to fill the entire of that gap. And again, this is the thing, it's like thing is about CRO is we came from whatever, I can't remember the exact value, like however many dollars it was before we pumped, and then we all, no, whatever the value was, not dollars, cents, I don't know what we were at, and then we came to like 34, 31, 30 something, I can't remember the exact numbers, and it's like, and this, what I don't get is, what makes sense to me is, and maybe that's my personality, I don't know what it is, but whenever something like that happens, and this isn't just charts, but just like big things, it's like, it's what's the word? I don't know. Holding back expectation, or holding back, like, you know, calming yourself down, if you will. Like, you know, something big happens. Like, oh yes, CRO's just gone from 6 cents to 34, and people are like, oh, here we go. Now we're at $1. It's like, how can you look at the move of us going from, maybe it was 15 cents. I can't remember where we were. I don't know where we were. Whatever price. From how can you look at the price doing a 2 to 3x at whatever exact value it was, and then go, okay, and now we're at $1, and now we're gonna do another 3x. It's like, how does that compute? I don't get that. Anyway, whatever, I'm yapping. Let's see syrup. Syrup is at 42.83. Again, we looked at the weekly of the gap. I've been abusing myself with syrup because I've been looking at the Binance chart on TradingView, and I just haven't had the data. And last stream, I thought, and again, I had this whole, like, you know, like, schizophrenic episode of, like, I thought I'd looked at this already on stream, but I couldn't find the chart. And I feel crazy because I swear to God, I was like, oh, wait, I should look at MEXC, and then saw that there was data on MEXC, and went, oh, okay, here we go, this is what we're going to come to. We're going to come a lot lower than I thought. This is why we came towards 26. So obviously we were looking at that. And I don't really think I gave too much on syrup. I think I was generally just talking about us on the weekly, maybe having that retracement. Again, across the market, you know, I would expect everything to go up. And again, 9.68, pretty good for syrup. And I think, I don't know if syrup's had anything happen to it over the past whatever. Oh, we had this move downwards. Obviously, we did find this. We actually have come up past this move down, which is pretty impressive, syrup, and I'm not gonna lie. But it makes sense because obviously we've come to, we came just about below the equilibrium on the weekly for syrup. So again, really long-term trend stuff going on right now. So pretty impressed with syrup. I think that's all I really look at. So I think I can move on. So on to Congrats. Just quickly glance at the liquidations. Okay, so we have a total of 700 million on the 24-hour, mostly longs, but some shorts. And this is the thing, obviously, again, you know, the shorts are going to be people who are like, okay, guys, yep, here we go. We've gone from 120 to 104. It's over. Here we come to 50k. And you know, I just think it's like, okay, we've just come from 124 to 104, whatever it was, whatever the exact numbers. Let's not get too excited. But obviously, I think people are getting a bit too excited. Like, okay, and then I think the thing is, it's like you can say both arguments. It's like there's going to be people on the long side going, oh yeah, surely we're not going to go down any lower. I'm going to do max leverage long because this is the bottom. Here we go, and then they get stopped. Because they have massive leverage, they have a small, tiny little liquidation point, which just get, there you go, gone. And obviously shorts, it's the same process. I think people who are getting wrecked in this scenario are people who are getting too ahead of themselves on either side. And I think that no matter what the market is doing, like a trend based, and let's say we're having a retracement, we're going to have smaller highs and lows on the 4 hour or the 1 hour as we get there, and that is going to take out people on both sides as we move upwards, because there's constantly going to be people on long and short, no matter what the market's doing, we're getting way too ahead of themselves, going, okay, cool, this is the low, we've started to go upwards now, I'm going to long, we're going to go back to 120k, here is the all-time high, here we go, bull run, again, November high, here we come, and then, you know, they lose, so, yeah, anyway, so that's obviously liquidations there. I did want to quickly look at economic calendar because I did know Fed Chair Powell's speech was happening. Again, I don't really think anything occurred of it. I don't really think anything happened. So, you know, whatever. In terms of actually anything interesting this or in the next week or two, because obviously it does come over to Monday here. There's these values PPI. I don't really. The big one, I'm just going to go past this one. Obviously, inflation rate. This obviously will be, you know, cheeky little bit of information here, so we'll see how that goes on Friday, October 24th. Again, that is quite far away anyway, so it doesn't really matter, you know, about 10 days away, so we'll get there when we get there. I did have some tweets as well. I wanted to look at. This was a quick one. Jim, the Jimmy boy, you know, reverse Jim, reverse Kramer, whatever. He says he hopes money can be taken out of crypto and put into real economy stocks. He did tweet about this, I believe. So obviously, as you know, and this is just something I wanted to give an update. You know, just want to talk about it because obviously people, you know, they say whatever Jim says, do the opposite. Obviously, people are you know, obviously everyone's saying this, so I thought I would show this. But more importantly, what I wanted to show was this one. So obviously the guy, the inside guy, who just knew it all. Okay, he was the genius who opened his account 30 minutes before anything happened, shorted 1 minute before Trump said anything, and then made however much money. Has fully closed his shorts. I don't know if he had multiple trades open. I don't know what he had, but I'm pretty sure he's closed it, I guess. So yeah, he has, I guess, closed it. I think I haven't really looked into it on the actual on-chain data or anything. Obviously, I just look at the tweet, go, okay, cool. Here's what the tweet says. So, but from what I can see anyway, he's fully closed it. So, does he know something? What does he know? Let's see. Last one as well. I just want to talk about this, and I'm not going to go through every single thread of this. There's about 6 of them, or every single point in this thread. I just thought this was interesting. I hadn't actually read it, okay? So bear in mind, I hadn't actually read this. So maybe I might send this on Telegram if you're interested. Obviously, you can go to this guy's Twitter here and read it. So the idea that people are looking into this guy, you know, because, okay, he's created his account 30 minutes ago, all right? And then 1 minute ago, he shorted. And then all of a sudden, Trump just said something, and then we're gone. Everyone's lost. So what's happened here? You know, what has happened? This guy clearly knows something. And obviously, they've tried to investigate it. So obviously, we can see these tweets. The weakest part is that if the leaks are not referred to Garrett, but to the owner or someone else, that analysts and reasons to open the trade. I can't read this because... Get out of the way. How do I move this? All right, there we go. Perfect. The trades he put out is rather weak. He does not seem that smart. He's probably just a front man, but he's starting point. So the idea that he's been told, so instead of directly, you know, someone's in the know, you know, someone within the team, you know, someone close to Trump is in the know, okay? And they don't want to be the one trading. You know, no chance. You know, there's no chance they're going to be trading because they will get the stick for it. So they're going to tell their friend, here's some money. Okay, do it on the chain, so you know you can't really get your name to it exactly, and you can just start up a wallet and do something decentralized and just get it straight away. Not that much involvement in terms of your identity, and then just trade it. Just go trade it. Okay, and when we tell you just short and then short. So obviously, I think his name is Garrett something or Garrett's. I can't remember his name. Garrett something. I don't know. I don't care. But basically, the idea is that there is actually I'm not going to read too much. I'm just going to go through the tweets, I think, or the actual messages. Let me go back, actually, to the first one. Here we go. So there are numerous of messages, and we don't know what the source is. Okay, I don't know what the source is. I just thought I would point this out. I'm not going to read through this again, because obviously I've spent 12 minutes in the intro and this, and I haven't looked at a single chart yet. So I do need to move on. So if you do want to go read this, you know, maybe go check it out. But the general idea I've got anyway is obviously there may be something related to somebody within the Trump circle who has made this happen. And this kind of makes sense. Again, to open an account 30 minutes before anything happens and then short one singular minute before anything gets announced and get that much money, something's got to happen. Like, this is like one in, I don't even know what ratio this, or you know, some mathematician out there could spend, you know, his weekends figuring this out in terms of the actual likelihood, the chance of this happening, of opening your account 30 minutes before a political event and then shorting 1 minute before a political event. And I mean, again, people short for political events, but it's like this wasn't even like a speech which was known about. This was just something which got tweeted. So, you know. Anyway, let's move on to the charts. So we first up have Bitcoin here. I can go to the daily first, just to see what's happened so far. Obviously, we had the high to low. I've drawn a equilibrium here and I've made it really like thick lines so we can see it a bit clearer here. But obviously, I could make it smaller for, you know, exactness, but it doesn't matter. There's a lot of bikes outside tonight. I don't know what's happening. But anyway, so going to the 4 hour here, driven from the high to the low, and then going upwards. Again, this counts as that move upwards anyway. If you go to 15 minute, we'll probably see. I mean, it happened over like 10 minutes, so we're not exactly going to see too much. But obviously, you know, we had that move downwards, and then we did have that there, but we've been basically moving upwards. So it doesn't matter. So we've been moving upwards, and then we have what we have over here. So we've come upwards, and again, I was talking about us coming up to about 116. We were shy of it, maybe $47. But the idea we would come up into this move we had here. We had resistances previously. We have also had this midline, which we've talked about, or this general area back here, which, you know, as soon as you come above towards this midpoint area is generally where you want to look for stopping points. Obviously, this one was very exact, actually, using this on top of the idea we have this gap. Again, this obviously gap spans the daily, you know, obviously wanting to come, you know, into this gap at least to actually, you know, fulfill the inefficiencies or whatever. But going to the 4 hour, we can see it in a bit more detail. We can see we have 3 here. So we can see we have this main one here. The closest one we have to the low here, which is about range in between 113.3 and the top end, which is about 115.984. So you can see we've come to that pretty nicely there to fill this, and then obviously we start to come downwards. So real nice retracement, a low for a high, which doesn't print, and then a move downwards, printing past this low, producing gaps, producing an order block on a gap, and this is what I'm talking about here. So this EQ, I was measuring out the retracement from these here, so from the highs up here to the low, and then find that midpoint just to see generally where the premium is going to be, if you will. So obviously that brings us to filling the rest of this, and then this here. Now, I'm not saying we can't stop here and come downwards, but what would make more sense to me on a personal note would be coming up a bit into this area. Obviously, this this makes sense as an area. Obviously, actually it isn't OB, it's actually a BB, but whatever. It's still a resistance area. Coming upwards and then coming downwards, printing past this low and printing through this and having this gap, which sits at this area, pretty much at the start here. So coming up basically in between this area. And this green area is also the equilibrium, again, of the entire range we've had. In the idea, and I'm not saying, because again, what is the chances, all right, and this thing, what is the chances of this move spawning and then us actually coming down and having an even bigger move down towards 102, basically 102 again. You know what I mean? So we might temper expectations, but the idea is, we did see resistance, from the high to the low coming upwards. We did see resistance here. We have come downwards. So it might not be permanent resistance. Obviously, we have our targets below us here, in terms of what we have down here. We do have reason to potentially stop. So that is potential. But obviously what I left off with last stream when we talked about Bitcoin and the whole move was what I would know for certain is I definitely wanted to see that retracement to come into this area at least and fill something of this move which we had on the way downwards. So at least we've done that. So now we can try and think as to what are we going to do? What is the most likelihood chance? We've just had this massive move. And it's like, okay, cool. It might look like, oh, well, why would we come down high to low here? But it's like, okay, if you think about it really, coming from 126 and then going to 102, the midline of that, and obviously this might be manipulatory or whatever you want to say, but technically, all right, the most logical area to be in for this, which is evened out. So if we're really low and we're back at 102, that is quite deep of a discount. That is quite deep. Okay, we're really low here. It would make sense we go upwards. Or, okay, well, we're really high here. We've just come back to the highs. We might want to see a bit of retracement here. But we're back at equilibrium, okay? So I don't think, all things considered, I don't think where we are right now is a bad area in the slightest. I don't think this is a bad price. Considering where we've come from, or where we came from, where we got to, and then obviously coming from that area where we've come from. Coming upwards from this low. So in terms of what this logically would be, it would be me saying, okay, well, technically from the high to the low, coming upwards, we would come downwards. And yes, we had this move upwards, and then we had this reversal. Obviously, I talked about this live. We're talking about this like really smooth resistance here. Again, these highs failed to print, gap, order block, resistance in the order block, filling the gap, resistance. This was a really clean move. So technically, we were already in a downtrend. So it's not like a massive manipulatory move which hasn't produced a new low and hasn't printed past any lows and hasn't broken structure or whatever. We were already moving downwards. Okay, so this was just a new low in that move downwards. So, and one of the things I was saying last stream and the whole one of the biggest conversations between every coin we had was, is this the catalyst for a bigger move, or is this just recovery of this this potentially manipulatory move, which then brings us back to schedule, going back up to highs? Is what the question for me would be. So in terms of the likelihood of this, again, in terms of individual, 4 hour, in terms of local area, in terms of this area, what I would want to see. So I'm going to talk about what I want to see here to see moving downwards, and then I will zoom out and see what we have over here to see, go into the daily and see what I would want to see on the daily and higher time frame than the 4 hour for us to continue downwards, or if we're not continuing downwards, go upwards. So what we have on the 4 hour, again, we've talked about this, so I'm not going to say too much about this move. Again, this is a very logical move in theory. obviously coming above equilibrium here, coming up to, actually this is a break. I'm going to rename this. This is actually incorrect as a break. Okay, because again, this is a down for an up move, printing past this high. This should be support. Obviously, we've just come to, and this is the thing. It's like, and then this is me looking at this stuff, right? These like formations or whatever, these like, oh well, this is a break, this is a fair value gap. The biggest thing I have started to evolve to really actually think about, and this is the thing, it sounds such an obvious thing. I might be an amateur here, and you can shout at me all you want, but context is so important. Like, I think the difference between and what I don't like is pattern traders, and everyone clowns on pattern traders like, oh well, you just draw one thing and it works, and yeah, it can work, but the amount, I think if pattern traders and people who just constantly applied one singular formation of candles and constantly trade it no matter what, if they just took on board context and what the market is actually currently in and where we've come from and what we're doing, and if they just did that, their profit ratio would go up so hard. And this is something I've developed with continuously doing it and going, oh right, this is why that didn't work. So for the example of, okay, yes, we did come down, came into this area, we did come past these lows, and obviously the area I talked about here, and then we print upwards. So technically this is now support. Oh, we should see support here and come upwards. Here we come. But look where we've, just look back. I think this is something people look at. It's like, just look backwards. Look at what you've already done. And this is a mistake I've constantly made. And this is what, and I've only really recently, and this might sound, maybe might make me sound stupid. It's something I've only really realized and epiphanized myself. Oh, wait, why am I not paying 100% attention to what we've previously done? And gone, oh, well, why didn't this work? And this is what I thought when I first started looking at this. I remember saying this like 2 years ago in a stream. I was like, oh, yeah, this fair value gap stuff, it doesn't make sense. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. It's like, it's stupid. It's because I was never looking at why, like, is this a high likelihood chance of forming based on the fact we've just come from 126k to 102, had a retracement, and the idea that we've already been in a reversal and started a downtrend. Are we realistically going to see really high probability support point, which is going to allow us to come up towards 120? No, it's not. We've just come from 102 to 115. Why would we do that? Like, no chance. So again, anyway, back to the topic. Actually, I should read chat. I'm an amateur. Sorry, I'm a horrible streamer, guys. Square, hello to you guys. I'm here finally. It works. I'm not doing an XRP giveaway. this is just. It's like the quality of comments you get on different places is just amazing. I'm not doing a giveaway. I'm not doing an XRP giveaway. I'm not giving you Bitcoin. I'm not giving you USDT. Leave. All right. If you want something given to you, leave. All right. Anyway, why Bitcoin and others are not going down? Well, I think obviously the idea of buybacks from the big old boys, the boys in suits of the big guy, you know what I mean? The Garrett's. I'm not saying it's Garrett's fault, but we've had a massive move up, but a massive move down, and we're just cooling off. We've just come from 102k, all right, and we've found resistance. So it depends on what you expect. Do you expect the same magnitude of move? Do you expect us moving from 126 to 102, going from 115 down to immediately 90k? I think this can, I think we can let it live a bit, all right? Let it live. So we just need to actually do our thing. So obviously this is the conversation I'm having now. We've had our move. So again, I say this quite often. Sometimes I have retroactive streams, and then I have proactive streams where it's like, okay, sometimes we look at previous TA and the way we can go from, or I'm looking at new movements and why it's happening. Anyway, I was talking to bringing about another show review, but yeah, absolutely. I think that'd be a brilliant idea. I've missed having KB on. It was a brilliant stream last time, but I think this would be brilliant. Yeah, again, I think, because again, out of the community, in terms of like actual intricate people who look at the charts day to day, we have no one more professional than KB. Okay, I think it'd be a brilliant stream. Obviously, if you agree, obviously you said sounds good, 100% agree. I think it'd be really, really nice to do that. So obviously we'll get in touch with that. So anyway, yes, so pattern traders, whatever, we've talked about that. So in terms of what we're doing, again, I talked about the idea that we've had this support time resistance, again, from the idea that we've come into this area. As soon as we come into this area, we want to look for a sell, printing past this area, and we have this massive expansion on the way downwards to produce downwards. And again, this, I think, what is pretty good, which I've seen, or what I'm seeing here is, okay, this is a very slow move upwards, and then we had a bit of a green candle down, and we kind of came upwards, and we had a bit of a hoverage, and then we've absolutely come downwards. So the idea of I've not coined this. This isn't my coin thing. But in terms of magnitude, like speed, distance, and time, for I think speed and distance kind of. I mean, speed and distance and speed and time. Whatever. The idea of the physics, equation. I don't know if it's. I can't actually remember. I can't remember which way it is. I can't remember. I think it's this. It's like, if you want time, you do distance divided by speed. Yeah, whatever. But the speed, distance, time thing, where it's like, okay, how fast are you moving? How long did it take you to move there? Which kind of determines speed. Whatever. Okay, let me stop talking. Let me refresh. Okay, I'm just saying words and it's not making sense. The difference between the move up we had and how we were printing and the wicks and all this sort of stuff versus the move down we had, I think, is a big delineation. Okay, we have a very expansive move downwards, a very quick move, responding from a resistance area which we formed in this massive dump we had, and we had this massive dump, and then we retraced. Okay, now what I will say in all fairness is we did have lows here. We had, I mean, again, we can't deny there was 102 low, and in theory, if we're going to come upwards, we want to see that move down. But again, that is more so for the daily here. So in the idea that we obviously want to come upwards here on the daily, which again we've already done. We had the high so low, and it's hard for me to look at the candle bodies and see this move and think, oh yeah, we've had a good retracement. Because look, like my eyes are looking at this little black line, it doesn't comprehend. So me seeing these candles and going, oh, we've only had a tiny move upwards, but we really haven't. We've moved up like 13%. Like, it's a 13% move. Like, I think this move and seeing equilibrium at 114.1, I think is very applicable. Considering what we've done and where we've come from and how fast we actually retrace from this move, this is fine. I think this is great. So anyway, yeah. So in terms of daily, again, obviously talking about the idea filling this gap and whatnot, we did have previous resistance. We had, I was talking about this gap. I did talk about the propulsion block here, which I didn't actually draw across, which I've drawn across off stream before we continue to move upwards. We had this formed here, obviously moving past this high, printing through it here, and then we talked about this low, retracing up into that low, and then continuing downwards. This is propulsion block. Again, we print it through with this candle. This is a perfect propulsion block here. So you can see we draw that across. This whole area is propulsion block here. We can see we did use that really nicely. So again, we have, and this is the thing, we have context, we have, so context and confluence, main things here. So again, context, we've just had a massive move downwards. There will be massive sell pressure in this area, however you want to, there's like 10 different ways of saying the same thing. Let's just say sell pressure for today's stream. Sell pressure in this area. So that is the context. So the confluence is actually what's there. So again, we have the gap. We've inverted some gaps here. So technically we have some inverted gaps on top of these gaps, or balanced price range, if you will. So that balance price range sits here, for example. So instead of us coming up all the way to 119, we could probably just look at this area here, which ranges here. We also have that propulsion block here, which is basically just another order block coming across. So we have resistance there. We also have a gap here. We also have a massive retracement from 102. So in terms of maybe talking about the idea of momentum, I mean, I know there's momentum oscillators, but I'm not going to be looking at that. But again, the idea that we've come from 102 all the way up, and this is what equilibrium is kind of what marks out the momentum. It's like the time it takes and the speed we reached from 102 all the way back up to 116, which is equilibrium, the measurement of where average price range should be, was very fast. So clearly, good momentum, and then we've kind of slowed down here. We've had a massive move upwards, and then we slowed down, and now we're kind of hovering a bit at equilibrium, which makes a lot of sense. So, and this is why I was looking at this area. I do think we'll see this move upwards. Will we see retracement? In theory, technically haven't printed a massive low past these lows. We did wick past these lows, and then we've started to come upwards. So the idea that we've obviously had that main low, it's like seeing a new coin, like it's like seeing syrup, and it's done this, and it's like, I don't know what else to do other than just look at the next best candle, because yes, there is price action in this area, but it's like I'm gonna have to go to 5 minutes to look at it. I don't really want to do that. So anyway, so the idea that we had these candles here with these equal lows, and then we came past and didn't print. Key component there. Again, we've talked about the idea of not printing. Talked about the idea of not printing past highs, obviously reversing. So the idea here again, low here, didn't print, and then failed, and then a new higher low here. should I, and this is where my conflict is coming in right now. Should I be expecting this to hold? I want to see if it holds, but again, as soon as you come past that equilibrium is when you want to look for shorts. Does it necessarily mean it has to be guaranteed? Again, that is where it is. It's like, okay, you know, you want to have above equilibrium and then reason to stop. So again, above equilibrium is going to be 114, and then reason is going to be filling a gap, for example. But on the idea that this is more than valid resistance, and we can see that. So I don't want to say this isn't a good resistance area. I don't want to say this isn't a good sell area, because it was. And this thing, it was a good area. You know, we hit this area. We found our resistance. You know, coming from that high to which filled it to the low, with a 5.26% move down. This was a good move. You know, this made sense. But then it's like, okay, well, we've done that, and it hasn't produced a new low. So this should be null and void, right? In theory. Now, again, this is you know, we have more resistance formed from this move, so this is why I'm not so much of difficulty. We still have more resistance move downwards, but you know, on the fence being, you know, if we haven't done a new low, are we gonna try and come upwards again and do a new high? You know what I mean? But what I have right now, and what I will leave it off with for the time being, because I do need to move on to new coins, because I'm 30 minutes for the stream and I've only looked at Bitcoin. Again, Kel surprise, is that we have this resistance area here. We have this resistance area. We have this gap. And I have marked out, you know, 136 as the minimum low, or yeah, the minimum high, I should say, or the minimum low of the area. But again, the equilibrium, or the midpoint of this area, obviously equilibrium is right here, so we have a quite high low, but or a high equilibrium. This is horrible. We can see how nicely we have the good area sitting pretty nicely, nearing that midpoint, either midpoint resistance, or obviously we have the midpoint of this area, which sits at 143. So basically 114.5 is a good high. That is probably not max high, but a really good high, you know. So I do think we can come into this range, find resistance, and then maybe proceed lower. I will leave it off of that. We'll see how that goes. Again, this will happen over a good period of time. We do have Wednesday. You know, if something critical happens, I can talk about it, but I do want to move on to Ethereum, even though I'm not giving the best overall talk here, because again, I mean, look at the price action. You know, it's like, okay, maybe someone better than me will have a more concrete answer, but we have had this move from 102 and then come upwards. What would make sense on just a simplified term would be high low, high low. You know, that is just what it is. But you know, I don't want to be too rigid. Anyway, Ethereum, let's see what we have going on. I mean, I think a lot of charts look very similar right now. We have that move downwards. We have that move upwards. We are having that move downwards. I think Ethereum's case is a bit different. Obviously, we have this massive move upwards. In terms of Ethereum, we did have, Bitcoin, sorry, we did have that move upwards, but we had a higher resistance area, which we responded offwards. With Ethereum, we did have high resistance area, and this is what I'm going to be talking about here. So, I'll go into the daily quickly. So we've talked about this previously. I don't know what that red line is. I think that must have been the resistance. We had the resistance area here, or this resistance, and then we came down. What's that red line for? Okay, well, we had these two candles was getting printed through, so these are two candles of support. We then came upwards, came down to around about the midpoint of this candle and printed upwards. This is portion block, still an order block, whatever. I just call it whatever I want. And then we also had this overlapping gap area. Now I know we did print through it, but in terms of actual printing price action, you can see we did use it real nice here. We did use it real nice. You know, we had an order block, and again, we did miss it here, and I was talking during this area here that we just slightly missed it. And again, I think I was actually talking in this candle about 9:30 and whatnot. So again, we did come downwards into this area, and they came upwards. So again, perfectly fine. I was talking about with Ethereum easily coming above this area for support. Now, this is the thing with this. Weekly, you might think, oh, well, we've come past the purple line. Doesn't that mean we're below it? Doesn't that mean resistance? Well, look, we didn't print through it. Okay, we haven't printed through the midpoint. We haven't had a reversal through it. We haven't reversed it or anything of that sort. So, by all means, I would still expect this to be support. Interestingly as well, this low actually was the midpoint of this weekly order block, which I don't think I've ever shown. I don't think I've ever drawn a range for this. I don't know if I ever have. So the high to the low on the weekly. I should just go to the weekly and draw this, actually. There we go. So yeah, that's quite nice. You can see that. We use that support. Obviously, we did come to fill area. We did find support this daily. That just lines up. But we did find that main low for the weekly support point, which was kind of what we were talking about in that stream. We were talking about, we had that support of the weekly order block. We had this range we had here. at about 3,700 I wanted to come to. Obviously, we were talking previously on streams, excluding the idea we've just had, you know, this massive 23% move down. We were talking about 3,600 already. We were talking about these areas, and this was something we were talking about back up here. We wanted to come down to these areas, so we came down, did pretty nicely. So what I left off with last stream, what I believe that we left off with last stream, was the idea we found support here. We should kind of come upwards, filling this area. Now I don't know exactly where I talked about finding resistance, but again, the difference between, I think what we have difference between with Bitcoin and whatnot is, with Bitcoin, we do have support. You know, if I quickly go to it, we do have this support area here, and obviously we are at support, and we did find support. But in terms of where the high and where the low is of it, we're not exactly sitting at it. You know, 108, we didn't really bounce off it. We did come to the midpoint, but not really anything there. And you can see, and you can kind of see that from the retracement we had. Now, obviously, I was talking about the idea that, okay, we haven't done a new low, so in terms of structurally, this is a fail. So we could wick past this, and this is something which can happen. We can wick past this and then come upwards. That could allow us to move up as well. It's where we print at, which is more important. So, and this is why I was leaving it off with what we had here, and why I really wanted to be careful of this, because, you know, we had the low, we wicked past it, we came upwards, so we took this and came upwards, fine. But then we found reason to stop. And again, what I reiterate time and time again, it's the balance between why you should stop and why you should continue. And yes, we do have a technical reason to stop, but if we come down and come past these lows, this is good reason to stop coming down. So if we hit this and actually respond and not print past this low, and yes, we work past it, we will come back upwards. So we do have, even though because again, this could be a scenario, and this is what why I wanted to leave off with Bitcoin, is we can see resistance here, so we kind of come upwards, see resistance here, wick past, and then come upwards. We can wick past this and come upwards. So this is why I want to be careful here. So again, you know, this 116 is still in the play, 117.9, 118k basically still in the play. So, you know, this is why I didn't want to give a super concrete answer. So similar with Ethereum here, but this is what the difference was for me. Ethereum's weekly order block, and this was a perfect area. We have a bounce price range, bang. We have a gap here. We have a weekly order block. This is support if I've ever seen one. Okay, this is support. This is beautiful. Okay, so we have obviously the gap here, never used it. All these highs, bang, off we go. And again, so yes, this is an inverted gap, but when you have a gap here and then a gap here, this is the inverted gap. It is also a bounce price range. So you don't really, I don't want to draw this main one. I want to draw the one we reversed. And then this is what we have. So again, the lineup, what's the confluence? So context, we've just come from weekly support midpoint here. We've just came past here, obviously wicking past some of these, obviously coming to the low of the order block, whatever. We have daily support here, we have weekly support here, we have all this support here. Why would we tickle upwards and then dump again? And this is what I'm talking about on Bitcoin. I'm not going to go back to Bitcoin, but this is what I'm talking about on Bitcoin here. The balance, it doesn't make sense to me. So if it doesn't make sense to me, this is why I don't want to give a concrete answer. But this makes sense. Again, more than easy support. Bang. Flipping this. Okay, cool. Weekly order block. Inverted gap, bounce price range, whatever. Support if I've ever seen one. So where do we come up to? Boom, boom. This is order block. This is now breaker block. We've been using it as order block, breaker block for quite a while now. This is a propulsion block. Can be used as support resistance. Came upwards, found the midpoint of order block, came down a bit. We had a gap area here. We had an inverted gap again. So again, print through area in this candle, printed through this gap and this gap. We haven't printed through this gap, so we have used it on top of the, again, the balance, and it's like a ping pong match. You know, it's like a ping pong match. It's like, okay, we didn't print through this gap. We have a propulsion block here, which we have used previously and reversed it. We have the midpoint of this order block. Look where we've come to. We've nearly pretty much on the dot filled this gap. We've come to midpoint of this propulsion block. We've come down, but we reversed this. We reversed this. So reversed both of these. So the top end one is now going to be the highest support. So again, if we're on resistance side, the bottommost will be the most likely one to be used, because again, or the most recent one to use, because again, it's the closest to where price is. But as soon as you reverse it in these two candle prints, again, coming from weekly support, by the way, so again, confluence. So if I was a pattern trader and I was just using gaps, I would short here and go, whoa, why didn't we come down? Look where we've just come from. Look where we've just come from. We've just hit the support and gone upwards. Like, this is the confluence. This is the context side of things. So again, we've just flipped these two order blocks here, fair value gaps. So the idea now is the highest one should be the most recent one you want to use. So we flipped that. We came down. We came into it. Lovely. Came up with one more time. Printing past this high. Good. That is a good sign. We've printed past this, flipped these gaps, had a really high or low, came upwards. Good sign. But We have this line here. We're in this breaker block. We have push and block, which is now a breaker block. We have this gap, and then we've dumped down, and we've printed past this low. Oh, damn it. Damn it. So, yes. But, again, we go up until we have reason to stop. We go down until we have reason to stop. So we've come down. We've just come past this low. That is a good sign. So as soon as you come past that low, there could be something there. But what do we have? We have this gap. But if we look backwards more, we see we have a inverse gap, but is now a balanced price range because they are both gaps here. We have then come to use it. We also have the weekly order block high. This is massive support. So we've used this. Okay. So then we'll start to go upwards, and then we'll have reason to stop. So what do we have here? Well, we have move upwards, resistance into this gap, print through this gap here with this candle. So this will be resistance here. Okay, we have resistance there. Cool. So what are we going to want to see then? So we do have support here. We did find resistance here. So what's the balance now? We've used this area. We have some lows. Okay. What's the balance here? Well, we have resistance here. We have resistance in this. We are at midpoint of breaker block. We have the full entire block here, and then we have these highs. So we have quite a bit above us. So if we look at retracement, again, look coming from the idea, we have printed past this low and done a low here. Again, look, high, low, high, low. Idea we should do a lower high and come downwards. But again, the idea, we're in weekly support here. If we come down again, I'm not saying we come down to this area, but if we come down again, we're going to be within this weekly support. So I don't think if we were to come down, and again, I'm still talking about this, so let's see how it goes. Even if we came down again, it's not going to be, I don't think it'll be long term. And obviously, I want to be careful what I say here. So, again, idea, high, low, equilibrium in this gap here. So what do we have as well? So we have this move downwards into this gap and then a print through. This is now, this was a support and is now resistance. So you can see we have this move upwards and we've actually come into it. We have actually had a move upwards quite high into this. We've tickled into this gap here with this. Obviously, we had the higher this gap here. Now, again, this is where it determines. I would rather see it a bit higher there or just fill this gap in general because we have this resistance area and this gap. So even though I want to see it come above, if we were to come into this area, I would want to see it at least above 4183. We still have this whole entire area, which is a lot bigger than what we had here, and we have this resistance. Importantly as well, even though I can look at both ends, we have a move upwards, gap, move upwards, and then print through. So technically, I don't even have to look at this. This is resistance. 2 green candles, massive print through the low. This is resistance. And if we use that, we can see if I draw a range from the highs to the from the low to the high and draw across, we can see we've wicked onto that midpoint really nicely. So we can expect lower. We have midpoint here, which is actually the start of this gap. We have filled this gap here, and we have this massive order block coming from this gap and propulsion block. So technically, it could also be a propulsion block. So we have this massive area printing through. We've come upwards. We do have resistance here. So I'm not surprised we've kind of had this massive move upwards, and now we're starting to come downwards after we fill this gap. So, and this is why I'm saying I could expect to see move downwards, because there's a lot of reason to stop going upwards here. Because again, order block, we've come into here. This entire area here, by the way, is this higher time frame daily order block here, which is now a breaker block. And we have all these reasons, and we have also filled this gap. However, again, if we do start going downwards, we'll go downwards until we have reason to stop. So again, we have order block on the weekly. As soon as we come back into that area, that is support. We've already used this gap. I think you can, and this is the thing I think I need to actually go and study. I don't know if you can multitudinally, that's not a word, if we can use these areas multiple times, but I don't care about that. All I care about is where we are. So again, weekly order block, massive support. Daily order block down here, massive support. Obviously, this is the midpoint. So anywhere in this area is going to be support area. So even if we wick past this low, I could expect it to retrace and maybe not print past this low. That could happen, for sure. So, again, we'll see what happens. Let's go to the daily here. I actually don't know what... Well. So, okay, and this is interesting here. So, I haven't actually looked at the daily on Ethereum yet. So, we had a gap here, which obviously formed from this entire thing. We filled it, and then we had a gap here, and then we filled this one. So, we're kind of in this stasis of, okay, well, we've filled this area, and then we've also filled this area. So again, kind of flowing here, again, in this area. We have come down a bit, obviously filling this gap. So we've actually had, it's like we've done something bad and good at the same time. So this is kind of why we're flowing here. So again, we are still coming downwards. I would expect a candle to want to come to fill its previous candle anyway. As obviously we fill this gap, it makes sense. So based on the 4 hour, we do have resistance. Based on the daily, we have technically used this as support. So technically, there should be a bit of a response there. We also have technically printed past this low. So even if you were to come upwards, we have printed past a major low. I don't know if Bitcoin's actually done anything like this. This is interesting here. So Bitcoin on daily, we have this major low, move upwards, move down. We haven't printed past this low. Ethereum, though, you can really see it when you flip it in terms of the difference. You know, you can really see the difference there in terms of where our lows have printed at. So you can see, obviously, Bitcoin, you know, it's been printing upwards still. It's been fine. Ethereum's case, though, obviously, we've kind of been in this down move. You know, we've kind of been in this down move. We had this low here. We have printed through it, and then we've come upwards and filled this gap. So actually, I can look at this as a major retracement on the daily. And if we look at that, we can see equilibrium is above 4,088. So technically, I'll hold my hands up here. Technically, we would want to see lower. Technically, based on what we have in the trend. And I'm not saying things can't reverse. And this is obviously an important note here as well, is the fact that obviously we have come to a massive support point on the high time frame. Now, again, obviously, we have come to the idea that, you know, we've had this down move. We've had this move upwards. You know, we had down move, we print past this low. Oh, here we go. We stopped moving down, printed into this low. Okay, we print past this high. As soon as we do that, we're not in this downtrend anymore. So we can look at this move upwards now. Obviously, finally printing past this high. We can see we haven't really had major retracement. We had this high to this low. Okay, we had that retracement. We can come up. Okay, we can come up one more time. We can see we didn't retrace there properly. We came up to here. We just about came to that equilibrium here. So technically, we have come into higher time frame. We have come into that higher time frame equilibrium. Similar to how we've done with SERP as well, to be fair. Coming down to find that support point. I will say that actually, because again, we had that order block and we had this order block filling this gap here and then printing upwards. This was going to be massive support here. So you see, we have come and found support here. I did want it to come lower. Again, we were talking about these areas quite a while ago. Order block gap here at 2,700. Does it mean it's over? Not necessarily. Again, we need to find a reason to stop. Now, again, we do have potential reason. Again, we are in this order block on the weekly. However, on the daily, we are still in this downtrend. So until we start to properly reverse on Ethereum, obviously the idea of the fact that we've had this massive gap and we found a bit of resistance here, we should continue to find resistance here, and we haven't printed past this high. If we don't do that, we've come upwards and we start to come downwards and obviously print past lows, which we have started to do on the 4 hour, and we start to continue downwards, this would probably mean us trying to get towards these lows. Now, I don't want to say this in the sense that if Bitcoin, I think, is going to go up, however, Ethereum isn't, this is a bit of a conflict of interest here. So I would be careful with what I'm saying here. And obviously, maybe I'm an amateur and maybe I'm horrible at charts, and maybe if I was a licensed professional, again, not financial advice, I would know better. But I mean, from what I'm looking at and what we have right here, you know, we have had a major print past that low. We have had a major expansion, and it's not been a slow retracement. You know, it's not been a slow retracement. We did have a massive move upwards here. I will say that. Again, we did come into that gap with the order block. So I'm not surprised we had a massive response here. But we had this 4 hour order block up here. We found response. We had some order blocks, which are now breaker blocks here. You can see order block, boom, reversal, coming downwards to the daily areas down here. Obviously, we did come lower, again, into the weekly order block we have over here as well. Coming upwards, we have reason we flipped this order block properly. Obviously, we thought we flipped it here. We came upwards, flipped it again. But again, the pressure of buy was pretty strong back then. I won't lie. This was when I was saying this is when I was calling for lower, and this was when I was like, okay, we didn't come lower. I thought it was really over here. We had this beautiful reversal. I thought we were going to see into this gap, you know, propulsion block over. Obviously we didn't, but we came down one more time and then we come back to low. So it's been a really rocky road here with this. But again, we cannot deny what price action is doing. We have a low, we print past it, fail to print, boom, print lower. It makes sense, okay? It makes sense. So the idea is until proven otherwise on the daily, we print past 4,753, we are still in the downtrend. Printing past low, obviously printing past this low here, what I'm saying here. So I would expect lower for Ethereum. But this is conflict of interest because Bitcoin, I could definitely see it in a world where we go upwards, because on the 4 hour, the difference with Bitcoin is on the daily we haven't printed past lows, and on the 4 hour we haven't printed past lows. Again, going back to the 4 hour here. Low, wick past, pump. Resistance, come down. Okay? Fail to print, coming upwards, finding resistance. Wick past lows, pump. I can see that. That makes sense. Ethereum, and again, on the daily, as I've talked about, high, high, printing past highs, failed to print past the high, printed past the high, okay? Bear that in mind. Printed past this high, came downwards, didn't print past this low. Wicked past the low, produced low, came upwards, wicked past low. So the daily and the 4 hour are both not printing new lows. Ethereum, both daily and 4 hour are printing new lows. So it's in my best interest to say what I see on the screen. I say what I see, okay? I'm the go at catchphrase. If you're English, I mean, I don't know if Americans have a catchphrase. If you're English, you know what it is. Go at show. Catchphrase is the best show in the world. I say what I see, okay? And this is what I see. And I might be wrong. And maybe I'm spending too much time on being wrong. So I should probably move onwards. Yeah, I've given what I said here. So we'll see how this goes. It's floaty because, again, found resistance here, form resistance support here. And we came upwards, we've come downwards. You know, we've kind of come downwards, we've come upwards. We've done a bit of a low here. It doesn't necessarily mean we're in an uptrend. Because, again, we had a high, we had a low, we had a high, we print past the low, okay? So the idea now is we should see that new low. So as long as we don't print past this, on the wider trend anyway, you know, let's say coming from here, low, high, low. So this is the start of what could potentially be a reversal. I get that. And then if we get up towards here, absolutely. Okay, and we are getting towards this area. So this is obviously, you know, this is obviously careful season right here. But on the general trend, I would want to ignore this because of the idea we've, you know, and not only have we done that, we've printed past the low, come upwards, failed to print past the high, found resistance, obviously previous resistance we had twice over, came downwards, finding a lower high here, dump. I need to move on to slide. I need to talk. Okay, I do have this screenshot here. This is what I was saying after the stream. It's a Saturday. So what we're talking about here was we're just talking about the idea that we're dumping still and whatnot. And this was pretty much directly after the stream. You can see 10:28 here. So this was pretty much directly after the stream. Okay. Yeah, I think I was talking to Tito at this moment. So we were talking about Solana going up, downwards. I think Tito was saying, oh, wouldn't you expect it to come lower? And I was saying, oh, well, okay, we could go past this low. It's pretty down, obviously, pretty far down. In comparison to what we had already, I think a lot of things already retraced. But in Solana's case, we had that retracement and we continued downwards. You can see retracement. We didn't really go up too high in this case. Obviously, that would be on the 15-minute, probably a bit easier, or 5-minute to see. Yeah, this is what you can see. Like, we came downwards and then we started to trail downwards, you know. So we didn't have that big of a retracement. So again, what I was saying was, I want to see where we hit the low. Obviously, talking about, I want to see where we find a low at. And I want to see if it's going to be the support on the weekly at 75.50. So I'm going to delete the screenshot now and show you guys. So what I was talking about, just to show you what my thought process was. So we had the weekly here. We have this down close for these massive up close coming into propulsion block here. So this is an order block, propulsion block. It's all the same thing basically. So we have this area here. Okay, I wanted to see if we could find a print at 75.50. Okay, somewhere's the support. We did come lower. Again, this is the massive dump here. We did have daily order block down here. We did have this gap here, which we technically filled, came upwards. I think there is something called a reclaim, and I think obviously you know break blocks, order blocks, sort of stuff. This is all the kind of the very surface of this kind of method of looking at the charts. There's some parts where it's like I don't know if I should bothering looking at it. So like there's some like you can have a reclaimed gap, and it's like really okay. So technically this is a reclaimed gap. Reclaimed gap. So we did have a order block and a gap on the weekly, so technically big support there, and I can't deny this is where we printed at. So anyway, paying attention to that anyway, goes to 4 hour. So we did have, and we were literally in this candle here pretty much on the 4 hour here. We were in this candle floating at this midpoint, as I was saying, oh well, we could, if we print here, we print above this low and basically see ourselves print here. I want to see it finding the low there and going upwards, because again, you know, we've had the high to the low. I want to see a retracement. If we go back to the daily here, I was looking at the retracement from the breaker block, filling this gap here, breaker block coming downwards. We've talked about this last stream, so nothing new there. Having the dump here, finding that low, and then retracing upwards above equilibrium to fill the gap. I am not saying anything crazy here. Now, what we have as well is, I think I remember talking about this being resistance maybe, but we didn't find major support there. But whatever, we do have this inverted gap here. You can see we kind of came upwards. We have used it, came downwards, and then printed through it. It's technically reclaimed inverted gap. I don't know. It's starting to get a bit messy now. I will draw a magical ray here just to highlight it. just to know we have it there. So 213. So what do we have on the 4 hour? So we've obviously been starting to come upwards, massive pumping upwards. We had a gap here. We did find resistance, but we didn't really use it too strong. Again, we do have, what is this? Oh, right. So this is the old retracement. Okay. We probably have something back here. I could probably, yeah. So we have down, up, move, down, wicking past this, printing upwards, gap, support here maybe. Potentially, I don't know. So yeah, anyway, whatever. We came into it. We didn't really actually respond off it, which is actually very interesting. I mean, it makes sense. We just come from the low. We want to see it. It's not interesting at all, actually. I'm stupid. This is equilibrium. And what's the golden rule? Okay. And you might disagree with me. You might think this guy's an absolute idiot. Why are you talking about equilibriums? 705. This is just Fibonacci retracing one. This guy's so stupid. The idea is, okay, you come above the equilibrium. I don't know what's happening. I don't know why I'm going so slowly. You come above the equilibrium, okay, and that's where you want to see that high. Okay, it's just a general idea. So, it's not our time. It's not our time, guys. It's not our time. Okay, we did come downwards. We had a little gap here. We tickled into this one, whatever. We had some areas. We came down. Okay, cool. We had a little gap here. All right, we found resistance. Cool. It is our time. We did come downwards. Now, we didn't print past this major low on the 4 hour. We're okay. Okay, we're okay. We have reason to stop. But we didn't print past this low. And I'm not saying we have to print past this low, because again, this is the same bounce we had for Bitcoin. We have bounce price range, inverted gap, whatever, coming upwards and filling this. We also have this high getting printed through here. We actually have both of these highs getting printed through. I'm going to draw it on this high, though. Actually, I'm just going to draw the whole range, because this is what it's supposed to be. This is the whole range here. So we do have this here. As you can see, we have the 2 candles. And yes, we did have 3 up close candles. But the idea is you have to get the candles which get printed through in the down close move. You can see it's only these 2 candles. We have these candles which come into a point of interest to find reversal. That is the most key component there. You can't just willy-nilly draw things. La-di-da, let me just draw this random thing which formed. Oh, it's an engulfing candle. Why isn't it? Okay, why? Where does it come from? And I see people talk about engulfing candles. And this is technically engulfing candle. Technically, yes. But you have to provide context as to why this forms. Because if you've gone from $100 to $5 and you find a resistance engulfing candle at $7 and you go, okay, here's resistance at $7, we're coming to $1, and then it goes up to 50 because it's just retraced, you've got it wrong. So that's the idea. If this formed floating in the air, I'm not going to look at it. But it makes sense. Again, we're above equilibrium. We've just found a gap. We've just come to fill this gap, and we reversed and we printed through this candle. This makes sense. This makes sense, okay? This has contextual confluence. This has confluence with context. Words. So we've formed that. We've come down, and then we retrace. So again, this is also a gap. This is an inverted gap. The midpoint of the... this is an order block. This is a gap. This is a bounce price range. We have the gap we've just come from. We have, reclaimed fair value gap. We're in sell area. We're in the daily gap as a whole. We're above equilibrium. We've got a lot of confluence on our side to suggest we could find resistance. Look at that. Look how beautiful we're printing. So we do have different areas on the 1 hour. Obviously, we have some little, gap areas differently. We have some little areas, whatever. But, again, come down, forming the gap, coming down here. Okay, coming down, coming upwards. Oh, look at that print. Look at this gap we've just gone through. We're going to print through this gap in a minute 25, okay? We're going to continue downwards. We're going to find resistance. Bang. Maybe I'm wrong. Again, maybe I'm wrong. So, importantly, and this is the thing I've been saying on all the other charts, I want to pay attention to the idea that we might not stop. Or we might not see... It might not be over, okay? Because the top end of the order block on the weekly, similar to how we have with Ethereum, is 195. And as you can see on the weekly, we printed basically at that area, and you can see we're starting to go up in this candle. So it doesn't necessarily mean we're pumping, but we have found a bit of support on that weekly print. We do have this low being taken. We have printed through, similar to how we have with Ethereum. So again, difference between Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Solana. Ethereum and Solana all have high, low, lower high, lower low. Normal downtrend here. And again, we've been talking about this reversal for a while now. We've been talking about filling this 4 hour gap. Massive expansion lower, coming up to breaker block, expansion lower, printing through. We have come to, obviously, point of interest, coming past some lows here. We have the weekly order block. If we form this candle here, and an up close, this is a propulsion block. So, as you can see, on that 190, this is technically a propulsion block. As you can see, we are using this as support. So if I draw a line which actually has color to it so we can actually see it, let's say a red line, you can see we've actually been using this quite nicely as support. Because again, this is now a propulsion block. Why is it a propulsion block? Because we have the weekly candle here. So we're in a point of support. So obviously some of these candles, for example, so this candle here, which gets printed through. We come upwards, we use it. This candle is a propulsion block. All these are propulsion blocks, even though this is a weekly support. We have this, we have the move upwards. This is a propulsion block. We have this down close into support, coming upwards. This is a propulsion block. We have down close to up close. This is a propulsion block. Down close, printing upwards. This is a propulsion block. I've not drawn that very well. This is a propulsion block. Support. Printing upwards. This is a propulsion block. Support upwards. This is a propulsion block. And then, obviously, this is where it goes wrong. Oh no, why did this propulsion block stop working? Context. Okay, so anyway, this is a propulsion block. Again, come into the support area, come to the midpoint of the weekly gap, printed upwards. This is a propulsion block. If we go to the 1 hour, as we've just been on, we tickle into it, we go upwards. We've tickled into it, we've gone upwards. So, we do have support there. I've got 30 seconds left. Jesus. Okay, so again, we do have some support there. But if we look at what we're doing, we have the high with the low, we have the high with the low, with a lower high, we're coming downwards. Look at this, you know. It's the penis. It's the penis model, guys. You know, it's the penis model. It's the head and shoulders. You know what I mean? It's the head and shoulders, guys. Look, head and shoulders. Here we go. $175k. $175. Here we come. Anyway, whatever. So we do have resistance. And let's think. We go up until we find reason to stop. So I'm not surprised we are using this as resistance, because again, bounce price range, inverted gap, order block, above equilibrium, all these reasons to stop working. Okay, all these reasons to stop going upwards. So I would expect it to go down. And again, we are in a downtrend. We have come from the range, from the high to the low of the range, coming up to the final lower high. I would want to see it go down. But again, conflict of interest. Bitcoin, I think, could go upwards. Ethereum, I want it to go downwards. Solana, I want it to go downwards. So there's a conflict here. You know what I mean? But obviously, you know, on this idea, especially on the daily as well, daily it's like down, oh, retrace, boom, down, massive move, oh, retrace, boom, down. You know, it's like, it's a really nice price action. I can't deny that, you know, if we were to stop it, obviously, on that idea. So what does the 4 and the 1 hour orchestrate? It orchestrates how far we move upwards in this range we've moved downwards. So what I could concede on is the idea, and obviously I was talking about this inverted gap here coming into the optimum range. Obviously it's just a fib retracement, it doesn't matter. Fib retracement, it's not, and this is the thing about this area. It's like, oh, well, you know, and there's people who used optional trade entry, it's like, oh, well, you know, why didn't I come to the optional trade entry? It's like, okay, it's not really, if you're trading just on these lines, you're just trading a fib retracement, and at that rate, you might as well not bother. It's not the idea that you have to come to this area. It's just the idea of the measurement of a deep retracement. This is like about 75% of a move down for a move upwards. This is a deep retracement upwards. So the more you go upwards, the more you lose retracement, or the more you lose momentum. And look at the momentum difference we've had, the differential. Expansion, small retracement, small move upwards, resistance, expansion downwards. Black candle, green, black, green, move upwards. Boom, expansion. Small, you know, green candle, black candle, you know, green candle. You know what I mean? Like, expansion. Every down move we've had so far in this move down. Expansion. This is... Excuse me. This is normal. Okay, this is good. Excuse me. I need to drink some water. So, what I can say we could go upwards more. Okay, we could see that higher move if we're not stopping in this area. But it depends, obviously, where we print. And yes, okay... We came upwards, we came down, we printed past these highs, and we've come downwards. We haven't printed past this low. We do have some relative equal lows here, but it doesn't mean it's over. But if we didn't have these, you know, inverted gap, bounce price range, order block coming from resistance, equilibrium, it's fine. But look at the resistance we're currently using. So it's like, okay, we have reasons to stop going upwards, we have reasons to come up. So again, we have the propulsion block, which we found support at twice. So that's the reason in which we stopped going downwards. So again, we have a propulsion block and a gap. So I'm not surprised we only stopped there. Even though, oh, well, we low to the high, where did we come to here? Well, again, you know, it's one of those things. So obviously, but I mean, technically as well, like, this wasn't a reversal. We're looking at this retracement more so than we're looking at this retracement. I mean, as soon as we come past this high, that's when you want to look for it. You know what I mean? Like, you're not really looking here. You're looking at the most recent low to the most recent high. But anyway, that's when you look at this. But even then, it's like we've come to this low. So, you know, maybe it's not all sunshine and rainbows with the retracements. Anyway, so again, propulsion block, gap, makes sense. Come upwards. Propulsion block, we found support, makes sense. And then the only reason we came upwards was, yeah, we had highs, yes, we had resistance, but you know, we just came to the next point of resistance up here. And then we come downwards. But then in this move downwards, and this is the important part, in here we didn't really find much resistance. We did have some highs, these relative equal highs, which is going to be beautiful for price to go through. But apart from that, we didn't find resistance here. We didn't go upwards and come downwards again. We came upwards, fine. Came to the next point of resistance. And then we came downwards. But then the important part is we've had the order block coming from a point of interest. We've had... we had a gap as we came upwards, which we've inverted. So bounce price range, inverted gap, whatever. We're also now above equilibrium on the entire retracement from the high to the low. So this is a lot of this scenario, and you might not think it, even though this scenario and this scenario are very close to each other. This scenario and this scenario are totally different. This scenario and that scenario are totally different. So, and importantly as well, we've then produced a new resistance area. So instead of just coming upwards and coming up slowly, having a slow retracement, whatever, we've produced a new resistance area. So the idea that we find resistance now, even lower, what stops us here? Well, there's no gap. There's not really an order block. I mean, yes, there could be a propulsion block in this area. We do, you know, technically have, you know, this candle, this black candle downwards for a up move. We've touched this area. This could be a propulsion block. And yes, you can see how beautiful. Isn't that beautiful? Look at this. Down close, massive print upwards, hitting that propulsion block. This is a propulsion block. Look at the midpoint. Propulsion block. Really nice there. Great. So yes, there is support there. And that's why we stopped going downwards. We didn't have we haven't had a down close candle touching this propulsion block, which is printed upwards. So this isn't a propulsion block. So we don't have more support down here. We do have this old support. Yes, we could use it again. Absolutely. But if we've come to resistance, filling a gap, and we've started to come downwards, could see resistance. We could come downwards. But obviously, as I'm saying that, you can see we're kind of using support at the top end of this gap here. So, you know, maybe I'm wrong. You know, maybe I'm wrong. I've just spent like 15 minutes talking about Solana, and the final thing I'm going to say when I'm leaving off is maybe I'm wrong. This is awful stream to take, guys. I'm not going to lie. This is bottom of the barrel. But obviously, also bearing in mind, we do have the top of the order block on the weekly. So there's support and there's resistance, and this is the thing. This is why there's conflict. You know, Bitcoin hasn't produced new major daily lows, but Solana and Ethereum has. So I wouldn't be out of the ordinary to say we've had a move upwards, move down, move upwards, you know, reversal, lower high, lower low, lower high. This is what's happening. And maybe, yes, maybe if you're a trendline trader, you know, those good old trendline traders, oh, well, no, we're supposed to come up at 228. Maybe. Hey, maybe. I need to move on, though. I do actually need to move on to other coins. So, actual words to leave it off with, because I just said it could go up, could go down, basically. Well, I want to see what happens. Okay. We have resistance. We have just come above equilibrium. Now, if we don't print past this low, which it could make sense, again, we have the propulsion block, we have this propulsion block, you know, we have reason to stop basically in this area, you know, in this area. If we don't continue to go down, again, I could be wrong, we could go up higher. But what do we have? We have a gap. We have a daily inverted gap here. We probably have somewhere else somewhere. You know, we have somewhere else. You know, we have probably the rest of the gap on the daily, which we've printed actually on Ethereum. We have pretty much fully printed. So maybe if Ethereum and Solana are very similar, maybe Solana's going to want to come up to this area. That can make sense, maybe. And Solana has been lagging, to be fair. When we were when we were retracing on Bitcoin and Ethereum, Solana was still kind of going down. So maybe Solana's lagging behind what Ethereum's doing and could go upwards. Maybe, I don't know. Let's move on. I need to move on. So, Syrup, what's going on? Oh, yeah, we come up, yeah, actually. I think it's here, don't I? So, what do we have? Oh, we've actually done it. Okay, great. So, I was reviewing what we had already on, before the stream. I was like, okay, well, this is just not right. Obviously, on the last chart, because again, I hadn't had any of this data. So, we had this order block, we had this gap. I wanted to kind of see if we can come down to this area, see a bit of support there. Obviously, I know that's very negative in considering what we've done, and we might not see that. Okay, I will concede on that point, but we have come to equilibrium, and this is the most important part. So even though I marked out this order block, we have come below equilibrium. And I don't know what that line is. Maybe we came past a low. Yeah, we come past lows. We've done something. Actually, we had the order block back here as well, to be fair. We had this area here, which actually seems like the area we found support at. Well, there you go. Anyway, so we found support. Obviously, we came below equilibrium finally on the giant, and this is why I'm very interested with Syrup. What I'll do as well, actually, for the charts, I'll just quickly quickly glance at CRO, XRP. I haven't actually looked at Suri, and spend a minute on them each, and then we can end the stream. So 15 minutes late won't be that bad. But this is the chart. Okay, this is Syrup as we know it. Okay, move down, move upwards, move down. Huh. Huh. You know what I mean? And again, I'm a happy trapper when it comes to Syrup. Interestingly, what do we have on the weekly? Oh, engulfing candle. Okay, engulfing candle. What about this? Okay, what about? Well, actually, to be fair, I'm trying to find a bad example of engulfing candle. Not really. Yeah. I'm trying to find a bad example, I guess. This candle. Oh, well, look, we've come for the candle engulfing, you know, oh, we kind of came upwards. You know what I mean? We would need to pay attention to context. So, that was a horrible example. Just ignore what I said, basically. Okay. It's just avert your eyes to this, okay? These two candles. So, the down move, okay, and the up move. So, down close candle. Coming past lows, all these lows back here, all these lows. Okay, come past them all. You're coming to the area, okay, the area, okay. This is what we want to be paying attention to. Come past these lows, okay, and then in the next candle, we're coming upwards, and we're just nearly printing. And again, there's 5 days and 4 hours of this. So what I marked out was we had the a small gap residing from the rest of this gap, aka we had a high. Okay, is really what I want to pay attention to here. Well, we actually also had equal high. It's just beautiful. We had equal highs here, which also resided with this high being within forming this gap, and we had this high. So we had actually, you can shimmy this backwards. There we go. There we go. So we had 2 equal highs here. I'm actually going to shimmy this up one. There we go. So we had these equal highs, and the gap. Boom, high. Taken. Ka-chow. I don't know if we had any. Do we have any resistances? Do we have this resistance? I mean, we had like a down move, then we had an up move, and then we had a down move, and then we had. I mean, we don't want to be looking at that. We want to be looking at these, the green ones. The green one, down. Yeah, okay, cool. So we did have something here. So we have reason. This is a valid gap area. So we have this move down, move upwards, candles printing through, coming into this gap, filling it with that candle print, coming downwards, finding resistance midpoint. So we do have resistance in this candle. Okay, so we do have a order block somewhere. Great. So coming upwards, printing through this green candle. This is now a propulsion block. Boom. PB. Why has no one ever said like a peanut butter and jam? I know it's jelly. I'm not American. I'm not American. All right, stupid American. And you know what? Actually, well, I'm not gonna lie. Looking at this, I'd want it to come to here. You know, come past these highs, come up a bit high, and we were only just getting there. You know what I mean? Because again, you know, we have had that low with the high and the low, printing through these lows, but reverse that gap. You know what I mean? And then obviously we've come past these lows, and we've come into, because this is the thing. It's like we're not looking to go to 8 cent, because we're looking after we've printed past 26 cent, going up to 87 or 67. Sorry, we're not looking for below 8 cent. We're looking to find a higher low, and this is what I'm really trying to emphasize with Syrup here. We're looking to find a higher low to go to all-time highs. Is what we're looking for Syrup. So this is what we really, because this is, you know, outside of Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, the big dogs of the market. Okay, they're going to be moving similar. They're going to be in similar processes, but this is Syrup. Okay, this is Syrup. Same with CRO. Like I think CRO and Syrup, like they're like new, like they're their own coins. Like they're going to be moving differently. It's up or down. You know. So for Syrup, we've had that low. You know, we could be seeing this. Obviously, we'll see. Obviously, how it goes. So we have resistance. We do have a gap here. So we have reason to stop, I suppose. I would like to see it print, hopefully, above this high at 42.6. And I will keep this marked out as a key level here. I'll make it in purple. Why not? This is a key level. 5 days and 4 hours. This is a key level. We'll remember this for next Monday. Okay. Now I know I keep on saying I'll stream next Monday. I'll stream next Monday. I haven't actually looked at Binance Square. I just realised. I do apologise. Everyone wants me to look at BNB. No, I can't. I don't have time. So, with Maple, or Syrup, I should say. On Monday, I know I keep on saying I'm going to stream Monday, and I don't. Okay, because obviously I keep on missing out to try and record the interviews, but I will stream Monday. I think it's a better idea. Monday, then you got Wednesday, Thursday, and then you got Saturday, and there's a gap in between Tuesday and Friday, or gap on Tuesday and Friday. So I think it makes more sense. So on Monday, this will be when we print this. So I'll see obviously how this goes. But then we could be forming a support point. What would that mean though? Is that the support point of this, you know, we would have the high, but the midpoint would be at 35. But interestingly, at 35, we had these two candles, which we have been using as an area of support for quite a while now. And that low sits at that midpoint. So we do have, you know, multitude of reasons there. So obviously, we'll see how it goes. And even if we print above this high, this will be us print. And even, okay, this high here, printing above this midpoint is what we want to pay attention to. So let's say midpoint's around about here, let's say. Roughly, kind of, maybe a bit higher. You can see we kind of came up, we reversed it, we found resistance again. You can see, printed through it, found resistance once, that was bad. Came down, wick past this low, pumped upwards, found resistance at the top, dumped. This was very bad. But obviously, came past major lows. We found below equilibrium, major low here. We've started to come upwards, and we finally printed through that equilibrium, which means this high should be support. Obviously, we haven't printed yet, we haven't done any of this. So, best case, we'll see 39 as support. Interestingly, what's there at 39? Huh, we have a gap. With a gap and a decently high time frame midpoint of this order block. So we should see a support there, I would reckon, for Syrup. So we do have reason, we do have potential to have this boom reversal come down, come up one more time, printing past what we have up here for the weekly. And if that happens on the weekly, this could be the start of something great for Syrup. I will quickly move on to CRO. 1 minute, just quickly glancing at what we've got going on. I don't even remember what I have drawn. What is this? Oh yeah, this is the start of the gap. So we had this gap here. We came upwards to fill it a bit. We had an inverted... We actually have an inverted gap, technically. Yikes. That's not very good. Are these all... Wait, hold on. What am I doing? This is all inverted gap. Damn. Anyway, so I mean, we've technically printed through this. We did have... Is this a weekly support? Yeah. Okay, so we have obviously the support here. You can see we're kind of using this as... Okay, I didn't really print that. If I draw a range here, just quickly just looking at... So that's there. So you can see we're kind of... What am I doing? Why am I pointing at the screen? Jesus Christ. Okay, there we go. Yeah, you can see we're kind of using that now. We kind of dipped below. We really dipped below. But we have obviously come up and printing past that midpoint as well. Obviously, top end. This is interesting though. But top end, we have found resistance. So we've wicked down to find support midpoint. We've found resistance at the top. And when I say we found resistance at the top, I mean we found resistance at that top end. Okay, well, let's go so far here. Oh well, okay. Well, maybe the daily it's better. The daily, the daily's pretty better. So we had order block high, and we had gap here. We found resistance. We've been in a downtrend. We printed past this low. I don't know. It's like we're coming down. And obviously the idea was, okay, on the weekly, we have the low to the high, and then a retracement. It's been very awful. Like, we've had this, and then we had this, and we have wicked past this low here, and come upwards. So, would I want to see a low for CRO at some point? I would want to. But look, we have this candle here, coming down into its own candle. Probably somewhat on the daily here. You can see this retracement down here, coming past this low, and then a pump upwards. And you can see we used that quite nicely. Boom, 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 support here. This was the support. This is the propulsion block. So we do still have support lower here as well, which actually, if we draw across, you can actually see that high was the high of all highs. The low. Well, actually, if we examine it further onto the actual black candle on the daily, you can see we did it quite nicely there. Anyway, so we do have support, but it does look like it's still coming down a bit. We've printed past lows, okay? We've filled this gap and then some. Again, this wasn't really great for CRO. Importantly, for this, we've printed through. We've printed through. And then we've come upwards. So not only do we have this gap, which we formed on the way downwards, obviously from the massive dump, this should now be resistance, which, as you can see, avert your eyes, okay? We have that retracement. Okay, well, well, we have the retracement, I guess, around about there. Anywhere above equilibrium is above this low print. Anyway, so I don't actually know where the grey area is for this. And you can see the grey area is actually midpoint of this, low of this, red line. I don't know what that red line is. I think it must be maybe some resistance point or something. I don't know what it is. High, move up, move down, gap here, gap here. This is going to be les resistance in this midpoint. And we have this area. We've already wicked up into it towards that midpoint. We've already come into this area for resistance. We found reason to stop. Order block plus gap, inverted gap. Technically also bounce price range because we have a gap here and a gap here which overlap each other. So technically this area is technically the gap. Technically. Actually, you know what? Now I'll redraw this because technically, where these gaps overlap is where it forms, which is about here. Actually, I can only shimmy up one more for there. And you can see that midpoint is pretty good printed. Midpoint there, order block weekly. We did have some stuff on the 4 hour here, which I will quickly talk about. Maybe, yeah. So we had the order block plus the 4 hour, 4 block plus gap. We did have this gap here, and we had the order block being, I said plus because obviously it was just in the range because the high of this order block was here. Obviously, this was the start of the gap. So this ranges from here. This line, it talks about this entire range here because obviously we have the top end of this resistance, which is here, and then we have this entire gap. Obviously, now that I'm looking at it on the daily, we also have this bounce price range here, which overlaps the weekly order block, as we've already talked about, with the midpoint being around about there. So we have that print. Not looking too great for CRO. Not looking too great. Quick look at XRP before we end the stream. I can't help myself not looking for so long. We have this previous resistance we talked about here, which we use as resistance once more. Flipped it. I don't know, we should flip it again, really. We should print it through it. So looking at that, we can see on the 4 hour, we've come up into it pretty nicely to find resistance. Now, what I was saying with this purple area is it was a weekly gap. Now, we have come to fill it because it was supposed to be this order block on the, or the breaker block on the lower time frames and this massive gap here. The idea is we want to come into this area, obviously the blue line stuff. I was very positive about XRP because, again, we have this high printed through. Now, importantly, very similar to Bitcoin, we've come past all these lows. Oh, it's over, guys. XRP's over. We didn't print. Okay, we didn't print. We didn't print on the daily, the weekly, or whatever. Only we print was on 5 minute. So we've come up, come down, come upwards. Yes, we've come down. But in terms of the, okay, if we just look at where we've printed, okay, in terms of major prints, we obviously haven't printed yet. We haven't finished, but we haven't printed past major lows, which is, I think, a good sign. I would say. I think that's a good sign. So for that, we have this gap, which we have obviously just formed. We've inverted some of these old gaps. We have this area which we've printed through, which is now a order block resistance. We've come upwards. I could expect lower for XRP. Even though we haven't produced a major low to print past, we do have a move down. We also have a weekly area here. I don't know why I only have it here. Weird. Let me do that a bit higher, I guess. So we have this purple line which shows where it starts, which obviously is also the start of this gap. So interestingly, we haven't reversed this gap yet. We had this top end of this order block here, which formed from the, also helping this gap here. We had this down move. We have this gap on the way upwards. We have this down move to the up move, taking all these lows here. So obviously points of interest are these lows, coming past them, then pumping upwards. So this is going to be an order block. You can see printed through. The higher that is 2337. If we go to the daily here, we can see we printed it really nicely, filling this gap. So it's kind of one of those things where it's like, we have resistance, we have a gap here, but we did have really nice support here. But this high is still order block. We could maybe come down a bit lower towards 0.5. So I could expect lower for XRP, but long term, I don't think it's going to be bad for XRP. We have printed past highs. We haven't printed past lows. It'll be good. That is it. Okay, I've spent a long time on the stream. You guys have spent a long time watching. I do appreciate you all for watching. I know I go off so long. Okay, I'm going to try and end it quick. Put the stream out of its misery. But we talked about a lot. Obviously, we talked about some of the tweets we had. We talked about, obviously, the liquidations. We've gone into a lot of detail, I think, on Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Solana especially. I'm really happy with what we've done so far. Obviously, there's some balance in between. Could it go up? Could it go down? In terms of, we're kind of tight, So for example, Bitcoin, it's gone up and gone down, but it's like had the massive dump, and then we've had a small high and a small low. So it's kind of in the small range here. Obviously, there's different potentials for this. Obviously, we're at major supports for some areas, so I could expect some things to go up a bit further, absolutely, and especially long term, regardless on the weekly. For example, XRP and Bitcoin at least haven't printed past major lows, haven't done anything really bad, so I'm pretty happy about that. Obviously, XRP, or Ethereum and Solana, and CRO, no, not CRO, Ethereum and Solana have both printed higher low, lower high, lower low, really smoothly. So that I would take that into consideration to look at it. Okay, but I don't want to go against what could happen across the board, which could be what Bitcoin does in theory, where it goes up. Because again, Bitcoin hasn't produced major lows on daily or week, or on the daily, especially. I don't actually know about the week. I don't know if I looked at the weekly. On the daily, we haven't put past major lows. So we're not actually in a downtrend for Bitcoin. So we'll see how it goes. We do have resistance. We are coming upwards. So I do think we can go higher for Bitcoin. Obviously, we talked about 118. Ethereum, I do want to see Solana maybe lower. Again, we are at the resistance. We'll see how it goes. Again, I do want to cover. Tomorrow, obviously, we are streaming. I'll see how it goes. Maybe, you know, if we're looking at Syrup. No, actually, no, we're not. We're doing Wolfswap. Actually, we're not doing Maple. So I'll probably look at Moon. I could maybe have a quick, sneaky glance at Bitcoin before we look at Moon, and then obviously do the stream. So maybe if something goes south or goes north, obviously if it goes well, we will look at it on the stream tomorrow. If not, I'll be back Thursday as well. So we'll see how it goes. Thank you, Tito. I know everyone gets really bored at the end of the streams and leaves. Okay, so obviously, Tito, thank you. KB, if you're still here. Alpha Doodle, I don't know if you're here. I see 2 people here. I assume it's 2 people. So for you guys sticking it through to the end, I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for being here to the end. Okay, I'm gonna try and get in contact with you, KB. I do think it'd be a great stream if we could, you know, have a discussion about it, and yeah, obviously, you know, have some thoughts. So I will message you. Thank you. See you tomorrow if you're joining the quiz. Obviously the Wolfies quiz. It's a new quiz, new questions. Okay, new UI. It's gonna be sick. All right, so get involved if you want to. If not, I will see you Wednesday or Thursday, I should say. Thursday. People on Square. I know I didn't actually read any of your questions and or anything, and I have abused you guys thoroughly from ignoring you. Apologize, but I will be back on Thursday, and we'll be back on Wednesday for the quiz. So, you know, if you want more of this, you know, me talking and you not getting anything read, then come tomorrow. Actually, no, we do read it on Wednesday. To be fair, we do the quiz. So thank you. See you guys tomorrow. Okay. If not, see you Thursday. Shout out to you all. See you in Telegram. Thank you. Goodbye.